Hello folks, in today's guide we are covering the locations to all of the valuables within the Winter's Wall, the Dryad's Forest and the King's Bastion. To detail these specifically, we have health gems, stamina gems, various types of Criptex, any cosmetic dyes within the area, as well as all of the Seneschal statue locations and all of the Iridescent Crows. I've done my best to build this guide like a walkthrough, covering practically everything about this area, whilst also making it easy to navigate with timestamps if you're looking to just cherry pick loot. Some of these locations continue from one another, so if your timestamp starts without a landmark, then you may need to go back one or two timestamps just to find the starting off point. Now, this region will eventually unlock the bronze, silver, and golden bows, as well as the soul rune, in which we cover any and all of these mechanics that are related to the main story and progression. However, if you want to backtrack to the previous bow and soul rune locations, then keep an eye out for this guide that should be out very, very soon, and I'll link it in the description below. Anyway, I do have some breaks here and there to fill you in on key information as and when it is needed, but aside from that, there's not much else to cover, so let's get started. Our journey starts from the base camp within the Niveus realm. When ready, go ahead and locate the first anvil sitting just here. Our next location begins from here, which is Aaron and Adso's Anvil. When ready, begin following the path on screen. In this building, you'll want to exhaust all dialogue with this NPC, and he will eventually reward you with a blue gemstone. Our next location once again starts from Aaron and Adso's Anvil. When ready, begin following the path on screen. Here, you'll locate this chest with a stamina gem inside. Next, continue following the path to locate this chest with the Fallen King's die inside. Next, continue following the path on screen. Eventually, you'll locate this NPC. Once again, exhaust all dialogue and you will receive a health gem. Next, head around the back of this building to locate this chest with a health gem inside. Our next location once again begins from the Aaron and Adso's Anvil. When ready, begin following the path on screen. Eventually, you'll locate this Dagger statue right here. Next, continue following the path until locating this Sabre statue right here. Next, head back downstairs and speak with this NPC. Once again, exhaust all dialogue and you will receive a stamina gem as your reward. Next, continue following the path through. Eventually, you'll reach this group of enemies and the larger enemy will hold the soldier's key needed to continue forward. Next, locate this chest with a health gem inside. Next, open up this shortcut to the previous area. Next, continue following the path on screen. Eventually, you'll locate this additional chest with another health gem inside. Next, open up this second shortcut to the previous area. Next, head outside and locate this Paladin Sigil right here, which we will be locating later on in this guide.
Here's the symbol of a Paladin of the Aurora.
When we find his body, we'll call his name.
Next, follow the path on screen to locate this chest with a stamina gem inside. Next, continue following the path again to eventually locate this Iridescent Crow. Simply continue following the crow until facing off against these 3 Templars. The 2 normal Templars will drop a single stamina gem each, so 2 stamina gems in total, and the Fiery Templar will drop a single blue gemstone. Once done, continue following the path on screen. Eventually, you'll locate this gate that we can now unlock, and on the other side, you'll find the next anvil sitting just here. Our next location begins from our actual camp location within this region. When ready, locate this Iridescent Crow within the actual camp. Then continue following the path on screen. Eventually, you'll locate these Templars that will both reward you a single stamina gem each, so 2 stamina gems in total. Our next location begins from the entrance to the Forest Anvil. When ready, head forward and activate the next cutscene. This cutscene will introduce the bronze, silver, and golden bow mechanics into the game. I'll be covering all previous locations in my Soul Rune guide, which will be out very soon, but otherwise, for this guide, we're only covering the bow locations needed to progress, or the ones that are located within this region. When the cutscene finishes, I advise not interacting with the idol, and instead proceeding forward for the time being. To briefly explain the bows, we will need to activate the bronze bow from this location, and then once using the bronze bow for any reason, we will have to return again if we would like another. To locate the bow, you simply interact with any of the nearby statues and they will locate the bronze bow for you. It could be at any of the other statue locations, so for the sake of this guide, we will cover all of the valuable locations, and then I advise you collect the bronze bow in your own time. To continue, follow the path on screen until eventually locating this chest with a health gem inside. Next, continue following the path on screen. This is simply a one-way shortcut back to the previous Anvil. This is simply where my bronze bow was located, and you'd be lucky to have the exact same spawn. But next, locate this spear statue sitting just here. Next, after locating your bronze bow, go ahead and interact with the gate right here.
There it is again.
Chills me to the bone.
Once the idol has spawned, go ahead and interact with it. This will teleport you to the Bastion, and when ready, begin following the path to the next Anvil sitting just here. Our next location begins from the West Tower South's Anvil. When ready, begin following the path on screen. Here, you'll locate this Sabre statue. Next, continue following the path on screen.
Up you go, boy.
A little higher. There! I've got it!
Eventually, you'll locate this room with a key holding enemy inside. Once done, go ahead and drop down here to locate this chest with the moon die inside. Next, open up this shortcut and continue following the path back downstairs. Now, with the key in hand, unlock this door and locate the golden bell inside. You will need to return here multiple times in order to recollect this bell, so do make a note of this location. Our next location begins from the Aaron and Adso's Anvil. This location will require that you first have an additional bronze bell before being able to continue. Once you have a bronze bell, go ahead and follow the path on screen. Here, you'll locate this bell statue that will now require the bronze bell. Once open, follow the path on screen to locate this Nerea statue sitting just here. Our next location begins from the entrance to the Forest Anvil. When ready, begin following the path on screen. Now that you've retrieved the golden bell, the enemies will have destroyed the bronze statue sitting just here, but an additional route will have opened up. Eventually, you'll locate this now open shortcut to the next anvil sitting just here. Our next location begins from the Riverbank Anvil. When ready, go ahead and activate this Iridescent Crow right here. Then simply continue following the path on screen. Here, you'll locate this single Templar, and upon defeating them, you will receive a single stamina gem. Our next location once again begins from the Riverbank Anvil. When ready, begin following the path on screen. Here, you'll find this chest with a health gem inside. Next, continue following the path on screen. Eventually, you'll locate this Dagger statue right here. Our next location once again starts from the riverbank Anvil. When ready, begin following the path on screen. Eventually, you'll locate this twin statue right here. Next, continue following the path on screen. Eventually, you'll locate this Sabre statue right here. Next, continue following the path once again. And you'll eventually locate an additional Sabre statue sitting just here. Next, continue following the path again to locate this Polearm statue very close by. Next, continue following this path all the way through. And eventually, you will locate the next Anvil sitting just here. Our next location begins from the Dryad's Forest exit Anvil. When ready, begin following the path on screen. Here, you will locate this Paladin whose sigil we located at this timestamp right here. And this will reward you with a single blue gemstone.
Voku. A card game and troll bile ended this paladin. If you want to know more, read all about it in my chronicles.
Our next location once again begins from the Dryad's Forest exit Anvil. When ready, begin following the path on screen. Here, you'll locate this chest with a health gem inside. Next, activate this Iridescent Crow right here, and then quite simply begin following the path on screen. You'll get locked into this tunnel and can only exit upon defeating all enemies. Once done, continue following the path forward. Eventually, you'll activate both Templars right here. The normal Templar will reward a single stamina gem, and the Fiery Templar will reward a single blue gemstone instead. Our next location begins from the Riverbank Anvil. I'm quite simply just explaining the Silver Bell mechanics here. Identical to the Bronze Bell, you will have to interact with any of these statues in order to locate the Silver Bell, then quite simply go and retrieve it. This is not required for the main story, however, you will need the Silver Bell for my Soul's Rune guide, so I thought I'd quickly explain it before moving on. Our next location begins from the Dryad's Forest exit anvil. When ready, begin following the path on screen. Here, you'll locate these enemies attempting to destroy this bow statue. Once done, go ahead and use your golden bell to now open up the entrance. Once on the other side, go ahead and follow the path on screen to the West Tower Cells anvil from before. Our next location begins from the West Tower Cells anvil. When ready, begin following the path on screen. Eventually, you'll locate this twin statue right here. Next, continue following the path and use your time rune with this ladder. Next, head up this ladder and follow the path around, and then eventually drop down. In here, you'll find this chest with the dragon's die inside. Our next location starts from the West Tower Cells anvil. When ready, begin following the path on screen. Eventually, you'll locate this crank to unlock this shortcut. Next, go ahead and activate this lift right here. Whilst either going up or down the lift, go ahead and drop onto this ledge right here. This rope simply leads back down. Instead, use the zip line to activate the previously inaccessible room above the previous anvil. Here, you will now have unlocked the Soul Rune. I am, of course, working on the Soul Rune guide currently, which will cover all previous Soul Rune locations. But for this guide, we will, of course, still be covering any necessary locations for the story. Once done, you'll need to charge your weapon with enemy souls before being able to use the rune. So activate this Iridescent Crow right here, and then activate the crank and head downstairs. Once outside, you'll have quite the army of enemies to defeat. The smaller enemies will eventually stop spawning, and upon defeating each Templar, you will receive a single stamina gem, so 3 stamina gems in total. Once done, head back up to the room from before, and now activate the Soul Rune.
By my will,
It will request you hand it the golden bell, and upon doing so, it will unlock the path forward. Our next location begins from the West Tower Cells anvil. When ready, begin following the path on screen. At the top here, you will discover the third and final form of King Ashkhanar, which is definitely his most deadly. I'm unaware of bronze difficulty, but if you're playing on iron or above, then the king can and will one-shot you if you're not being careful. Additionally, the arena is obviously quite tight, and to make things worse, the wooden barriers can be broken, and thus you can easily plummet to your death if you're not being careful. Not to worry, however, as I have put together a little to-do list that should get you through the fight quite a bit easier. Okay, so when dealing with King Ashkhanar, you'll want a weapon focused on being able to dodge and deal decent damage without taking too much time to wind up animations. You won't really need to block at all, however it can work, but for this tactic, we'll mostly just be dodging. So the king has a few attacks that are quite simple to deal with once you're locked in. The first is the overhead slam. This is quite easy to dodge, but will absolutely one-hit you if you are caught, so do make sure you dodge this every time. You may be able to block this, but I didn't have much luck with my current weapons, so I would advise just dodging. Be careful when damaging after the overhead slam, as he may very well throw out another, which can catch you off guard, and this is by far his strongest attack. Next, we have the left or right swings. These are quite simply dodged if you dodge the direction of the swing. This is also a very common attack of his and can be punished quite consistently. It also does less damage than the previous attack, so it is more manageable, but quite easily dodged through and through anyway. Next, we have the pushback, followed up with either the ranged attack or a charge forward. The ranged attack is quite easily dealt with. If you are caught, then focus on getting out and evasive maneuvers as soon as possible. Otherwise, if he charges instead, be prepared to dodge and then take advantage of the damage window. You can, at times, dodge around the king and get extra damage by backstabbing. However, it isn't easy to consistently do, and despite being valuable damage, it can take up more time than it's worth, considering the king can still one-shot you. Regardless, follow these steps, take your time, and ultimately focus on dodging absolutely everything coming your way, and taking advantage of your damage windows as best you can. Because you are mainly focusing on dodging, I will also add that it will help to just stick to the king and stay as close as possible. This will help with not being too near to the arena's edge and potentially falling off. Otherwise, best of luck, folks. Our next location begins from the West Tower Cells Anvil. When ready, begin following the path on screen. In this room, you will now come up against the Matriarch, which is a substantially easier fight than the previous boss. The Matriarch is very similar to Voru, in which they mainly have stabbing attacks and will often burrow underground to try and surprise you. My best advice is to anticipate the Matriarch emerging from the ground and using this time to get some solid surprise damage in. Otherwise, this is a fairly straightforward boss fight.
I'll record its evil in my notes.
Once done, go ahead and open the door at the back of the chamber
This part of the world is
and locate this sword statue right here. Next, continue following the path on screen. Eventually, you will locate the next anvil sitting just here. That is where we call it for this guide, folks. I am currently working on the Soul Rune guide, so do expect it very, very soon. But in any case, I have a range of guides on my channel, so do feel free to stop on by and check things out. Otherwise, thanks for watching, folks, and until next time, peace.